Our ship, the Royal Princess, docked in Victoria, British Columbia around noontime. We picked up a bus at the pier to take us to Butchart Gardens. This is part of the narrated bus ride. A video of the gardens is available, and I will provide a link in the description.
Victoria is the capital city of British Columbia. It's British Columbia is one of the 10 provinces here in Canada. So here at Ogden Point, this was built in 1914 in anticipation of the opening of the Panama Canal. Now if you look over just to your right hand side, you'll see this long, half-mile long breakwater. That's what creates our deep sea port here. So we're able to bring in 5 big cruise ships. Well, 1978, we saw our first cruise ships. A mere 30 entered our waters. But this year, in 2022, we are expecting 350 ships to call into port. So for the past 2 years, we've missed our visitors, and we are so happy to have you all back. And I'm sure you're happy to be on a vacation.
Yeah.
Scuba diving, cold water diving, our marine life is very abundant here. Second only to the Mediterranean Sea, as a matter of fact. So let's look over to the right hand side there, folks. Beyond that cloud level that we don't see are the beautiful Olympic mountain range. It's about 24 miles across the Strait of Juan de Fuca. So when the cartographers mapped the boundary here, they met on each side. So the Olympic mountain range is located in Washington State. And so down the middle of the Strait of Juan de Fuca, the cartographers mapped halfway out the international border. And what they did is they put rock cairns along the beach to mark those 13 points where the border makes its turns. So the first folks that actually lived here on Vancouver Island were our First Nations people. They were the Lungquanguin and the Songhe Nation. You see, they were familiar with hunting and fishing, and if you look at the tall grass on my right hand side, in the early springtime, this field is aglow with beautiful periwinkle, camas lilies. You see, the First Nations people used to harvest them. They're similar to a green onion, and they would roast them and serve them with their fish and the wild game. So some of the early explorers that passed through our waters were Captain James Cook, and the one who claimed Fort Victoria in 1853 was Captain James Douglas. We'll pass by later on our return trip to the city, and I'll show you where he put the flag in the ground along Wharf Street. So James Douglas himself was a chief factor with the Hudson's Bay Fur Trading Company. And many of these early explorers married First Nations women. They were hard workers, and they were familiar with the fur trading industry and also how to live off the land here and fish in the oceans. So just to give you a little size of Vancouver Island, it's about 292 miles long by 52 miles wide with the peninsula, and that's where we're heading. We're heading out to Todd Inlet. That is where the beautiful Butchart Gardens are. It's about a 40 to 45 minute drive. Now if you look over here to my left hand side, you'll see mile 0. In behind is a statue of a young man named Terry Fox. It's a crown jewel of parks here in Victoria. This was established by James Douglas. Have a look over at the giant watering can. You'll see the little children enjoying it as it's spraying water down. Something else you'll find in there is a petting zoo for children. There's a cricket pitch. There's a putting green. There's free roaming peacocks, beautiful water falls, lakes, all natural flora and fauna. Oh, there's one of our resident peacocks there on the right. But when James Douglas handed this beautiful park over to the city of Victoria, there were 3 conditions he asked they respect. So one, that the park would never be fenced, no commercial enterprise would take place, and no fee charged. Now look at all these well-fed ducks and Canada geese. There's a gentleman feeding them. There's some turtles on the log. This is Goodacre Lake. And in the background is that beautiful rock bridge. That is the Emily Carr Rock Bridge. You see, Emily Carr was born here in this neighborhood, and she is a famous Canadian author and artist. Emily herself, she was an eccentric woman, and she would put him in a baby buggy and parade him around through the streets of Victoria. Well, folks were often interested to see what was in the buggy. And this used to be a convent for the Catholic Church. It's now used for parking and other amenities. You see, this area we're traveling up is known as Church Row back in the early days. On my left-hand side here is cathedral. That used to be built out of wood. After 2 fires, it's eventually been built out of beautiful BC granite. And that's the Anglican Church. And so when royalty comes to visit, that is their church of choice to visit and worship at. Now looking straight ahead on the left-hand side, you see the beautiful spire there. That's the Catholic Church. 1 block over is a Presbyterian church. And several blocks ahead of us on the right-hand side is also a Jewish synagogue that has been here since the late 1800s. Hand side there, folks. The bells are just like what chimes at Westminster Abbey in England. So it's beautiful walking trails, hiking and biking, kayaking, great golf courses here, lawn bowling. Do you see that heap of scrap metal over there? Right there? Well, that's what the city calls art. You can see some big burly men in their kilts throwing tabors and other objects there. A lot of beautiful Celtic music and beer gardens. Spain and France are experiencing right now. We had temperatures soaring up into 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It was extremely hot, suffocating. That they open up the telescope and allow you to look at the beautiful night sky. Tickets ready and we'll see what happens. If you have the voucher handy, okay, awesome, thank you. Good afternoon. And I'll go park. Awesome, thank you. So I'll just pull up, hop off the bus, and I'll go get the tickets, then I'll be back.
And so we've arrived at Butchart Gardens. See the description for a link to our video tour of the 55-acre garden with over 900 varieties of flowers. I'm sure you'll like it.